Hi everyone, welcome back if you're joining us again. My name is Sandra, aka La Lobita, and I'll go ahead and do a full moon reading for this upcoming full moon taking place June 11th. Different times depending on where in the world or the US you are joining us from. But this is a full moon in Sagittarius, and I don't know about you, but the full moon is already activating. The full moon energies are seeping in, and so there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick message from the highest of your guides, ancestors, angels, to see what is the guidance, what is the energy we need to bring in to this full moon, and how can we avoid just nonsense. Any full moon that's in a fire sign is already going to be just intense, and whenever we have a fire sign full moon, I do tell folks, like, just lay low, calm down, don't be quick to react, don't be quick to don't be quick to respond, don't be quick to react, right? I always say there's a difference between responding and reacting, right? When you're responding to things, you're actually taking a moment, thinking about, how much weight is your response going to say, how is it going to affect others? Is this something that you really mean, or is this something that you're saying in the heat of the moment? Whereas a reaction is something that almost just, it comes without thought. Oftentimes when folks are reacting, they're just saying things, through the hurt, right? Through the distortion. Anyways, I wasn't trying to get hella deep in there, but here we are already channeling messages. And so the cards that we have right now, the main card guiding the reading is the abundance card, and the message is, realize that you already have all that you need. So I know that there's so much going on in the state of the world, but if you're living in the US, so much more is going on right now with all the different ICE raids that are happening in our community. And, for folks who might want to say, like, why is she talking about this? You need to go do research as to who I am and what I'm about. But there's a lot of uncertainty going on, not only with the ICE raids, not only with the state of the world as it is, the state of politics as it is, right? So many people are really struggling financially. So many people are worrying about things like, what am I gonna do, right? If you're coming from an immigrant community, what am I gonna do? What is survival gonna look like next week, next hour, right? Next month, right? Trying to really figure out, what is work gonna look like? What is survival gonna look like? The same for folks who are, citizens, with all of these different bills coming in, with all of these different changes, and, just money being funny, and legislation being introduced that's definitely going to slash a lot of different avenues of support for people, including, Medicaid, and it's just, like, that's as far as I'm gonna go. But all that to say is, with what's happening out there, is whenever there are attacks to what we have, or whenever we are living in times of uncertainty, we gotta go, we have these thoughts of lack, we have these thoughts of survival, our survival instincts come in. And so Spirit's just letting you know that, whether it's, how am I going to live day to day, what is my next venture, what is my next job, for those of you in the collective who have been figuring out, right, how do I help, how do I start this thing excuse me, how do we start this thing, how do I dive into my passion, right? Spirit's definitely guiding you to think with abundance rather than lack, right? And knowing that you have everything that you need, whether it's gifts, whether it's talents, right? Whether it's things that you already know, that have already been encoded in you, in your blueprint of who you are, so that you can go ahead and not just survive, but thrive. We also have the revival card. Again, the revival and the breakthrough. So I always like to say, this is getting a little bit deep. Usually I go into lives for these types of messages, but we're undergoing, we have revival, breakthrough, offering, and death, right? So we're definitely going through many different, I'm hearing cyclical changes in our collective. So the first is, we're coming into a revival of self. We're coming into a revival of our society, the revival of how we do things, how we govern, right? We're officially in that timeline, right? To where it's what's working is no longer going to be working. If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing it's the eagle taking off and getting ready to soar, right? And so that's what Spirit is preparing us for. But as you all know, in order for us to have a revival, right, we need to go through a death. We need to go through, whether it is a spiritual death, whether it is an eagle death, whether it is a death of illusions, right? So many people are undergoing these different deaths. I'm so surprised. I'm going to switch this out over here. I'm so surprised that, there are a lot of people who are like, how could this be happening? How could, the government, how could all of these different forces be acting like this? And so a lot of folks are having the death in the illusion, in the trust, in the old identities that they once believed, these old things that they believed was truth, right? And so we have to see that death. We have to have the death of the old, right? In order to have the breakthroughs we need, right? In order to have these dark night of the souls, in order to have these revelations come in that, yes, they are uncomfortable, but they're also going to push us through that breakthrough that we need, right? Breakthroughs never, ever, ever come in times of just sitting back on the beach drinking a pina colada. Not that I do that, but you know what I mean. Like, you're not gonna really have a breakthrough in those moments. You might have some insight coming in, but really breakthroughs come in those moments where you're just having the ego death, where you're being pushed and pushed and pushed to where you feel like, you cannot take it no more. And really, Spirit's just kind of like, you push some more, right, to get to the breakthrough. And once you get to the breakthrough, then you have that revival. You have that moment into, how am I going to act, and how am I going to, what is needed of me in this moment, and how do I need to be showing up in times like these? How do I want to be showing up moving forward, right? Now that I know what I know, now that I've had the breakthrough that I've had to break through. And maybe for a lot of you, it's like, it's leaving those jobs, it's leaving those relationships, it's leaving the thing that was holding you back, these things that, your comfort zones, right? Maybe that is the breakthrough of something needs to change because my current surroundings is not changing, right? No matter how much I ask, no matter how much I plead, right? These things aren't happening. And this might be a specific message, but sometimes that is the breakthrough you need, right? You can only push so much. You can only change so much. You can only bend over backwards so much. You can only sit in silence so much. And so what is your limit, right? And for a lot of you, this Sagittarian full moon might be that breakthrough that you need in order to get to that moment of that revival, right? In order to really tapping into your fears, what is keeping you from chasing that dream? What is keeping you from chasing, from going after the life that you want, the things that you want? not in bad faith, in good faith, because for all of this, right, in order to have your revival, in order to have this abundance, in order to have the life you need, it always has to come from a place of goodness. It has to come from a place of really wanting of abundance, of not thinking in lack and not wanting to take away from what is others, right? There's something in Spanish that's like, lo que es para ti es para ti. You know, what's for you is always going to be for you. And you already have that coding. You already have that knowledge within you. Just like you already have the abundance, the resources, the talents that you need. They are already living inside of you. Whether they have been dormant or not, they are within you. And so the last card we have is the tobacco, the offering card. Spirit's definitely asking us for this full moon, for those of us in the Rancho Collective, right? Give an offering, give a tobacco offering to the ancestors, to the espíritus, to the angels, to the muertos, right? Take some time, right? For those of you who, are able to ceremonial, like smoke tobacco, right? If this is not in your culture, do not do this, right? But those of you who know, right, give a tobacco offering, whether it is through smoke, whether it is through leaving a little bit of tobacco, right? Whether it is saying a little bit of prayer and, really helping with the death, the revival, and the breakthrough in your life, right? You could give it to a tree, right? But leave an offering and make that petition for what you need. All right, y'all. Again, I said I was going to start keeping these really, really short and really quick. That's all I have. I will be going ahead and opening my books actually next month for the month of July. So if you want a one-to-one reading, go ahead and hit me up. I have my information below. Take care and have a good full moon.